Welcome in at the Art Podcast, episode 146. Two-man booth once again with Vinny and I as we take a look at the San Diego section playoffs. Brackets just came out this past weekend, Vin, and we've had some time to look them over and some time to analyze, overanalyze, take a deep dive. Initial thoughts, just on the we're going to talk about Division 2, Division 1, and the Open Division in this podcast. But what are your initial thoughts just looking at those brackets?
Initial thoughts. I thought the Open Division, for the most part, they got it right with the teams that could have been the top 8. I think when you go towards the bottom, there's probably anywhere from 6 to 8 teams that you could have shuffled around to finish out that, bottom tier in the lower bracket. But the Open Division, I think, and we'll talk about it a little later, I think anyone can take the Open Division this year. It's pretty wide open, especially with the double elimination that you're going to see for the format of it. And then I think as you get into Division 2, I think that's a pretty deep bracket this year. And give or take, it might be a little deeper than the Division 1 bracket that we're going to talk about. But all in all, it looks like in terms of the top teams for each bracket, it looks like they got it right for the most part.
Yeah, some interesting situations came up over the weekend, right? We talked off air with, Maranatha Christian. That's just a really bizarre situation, right? Where the only way they could have got in was by tying their game. Like a win, they're out, a loss, and they're out. And just kind of getting with Matt Jervis, the head coach over there, explaining it to me, it still didn't make sense, right? The point system that's used, and I guess Grossmont got in over them, and because they had a win earlier in the season that's rated as a Division 1 win, I guess despite their overall record, that they lost something like 8 or 9 in a row, or 9 of the last 10 or something. Despite that, they get in. So have you heard anything more on that? Does it make sense to you? Because I'm completely confused by
it. In that regard, I haven't heard much more on it, and you're right, it doesn't make sense. And I think the formatting is a little bizarre on the other divisions as well, because I think if you go through Division 2 through 5, on average, it's 20 teams, 12 teams get in of how they decide the point, system that the committee feels is the point system. But then if you go into Division 1, they separate the top 8 teams out of the 20 into the Open Division. So all 20 in Division 1 get in. So I think that there's kind of a little bit of an error in terms of what teams should get in and what should not, because I think that there's some teams in Division 1 that probably didn't warrant a playoff spot in lower divisions, but because of how it's formatted, they have a playoff spot.
So, explain that a little bit more for the people listening that don't fully understand that, right? So before the season, they lump 20 teams into each division, right? And then those in Division 1, every one of those 20 teams is essentially guaranteed, regardless of record, a playoff spot, right? Because we said one of those teams in the Division 1 playoff is what would we say, 7-21?
7-21, I believe. So I mean, if you break it down, every team before the season, CIF San Diego section, like you said, separates them into 20 teams based off what they feel was warranted on their previous season. And the top 20 teams get put into Division 1. Well, after the season's over, they take the top 8 teams from those 20, put them in an open division bracket, and the remaining 12 are slotted right into Division 1. So, like you said, all 20 of those teams that are given a Division 1 slot are automatically going to be in the playoffs. So, like last year, there was a team that went 1-14 in their league, and they had a playoff spot last year. And that same team that we're going to talk about later is now in Division 2, and they went 14-1 this year in league, and they're in a play-in. So it's just a lot of different decisions that they're making. But I think the preseason decision that they make for Division 1 is kind of messing this up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, 7-21, and you're in the playoffs is
right.
confounding, and that team that you're talking about with the huge turnaround going into a play-in game,
right?
In
a league title,
lower division
as a league champion.
as a league champion, right?
Yeah.
We had the last podcast we did, Hardy and I, we had a lot of conversation about league champions having to go on the road and this and that. And, now, I mean, that team Poway is the team you're talking about. And,
right.
Now those guys are in a play-in game. And so,
yeah,
I guess the one thing we can agree on is that it's all very confusing, how they do it.
100%.
And in some cases, may not make sense to us, but it certainly makes sense to the governing body in San Diego.
Right.
Which, God bless them. They do a phenomenal job with all their sports, but obviously our focus being baseball, it just makes it really interesting that a 7-21 team is in the Division I playoffs. But maybe there'll be an amendment to that policy or structure in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, but I think we did talk about also, like, they do a great job with how they format it with San Diego section, right? With the double elimination bracket, how teams, if you're in the play-in, if you get in, then you're now put in the double elimination bracket for the lower divisions. And that side of things I do enjoy. I think that makes the competition pretty well. And I know that Southern section kind of jumped into that this year with Division I.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's a great point. The fact that it's double elimination all the way through after the play-in round is awesome. The other thing we were commenting on is all of this takes place over the course of essentially 2 weeks, which is even better, right? So it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday or Saturday. Like, I think that's awesome, right? Versus carrying it out, dragging it out 3 weeks, sometimes even a little bit longer, 3.5 weeks like they do in some other sections. So, there's a lot of really positive things about the way San Diego runs their playoff system. That section, it's just, there's some curiosity just on my part, how they kind of decide
make the decisions.
But,
totally.
But hey, let's jump in. Like we said, we're going to talk about Division II, Division I, and then the Open Division. So let's start with Division II. Top seed is Christian High School. 2 seed is Bonita Vista. 3 seed is Helix. And the 4 seed is Santa Fe Christian. Those teams all get a bye from the play-in round to the first round. So let's look at some of these matchups here in the play-in round. Number 8 seed, University City, has a home game against 9 seed Claremont. The aforementioned Poway Titans are the 5 seed. They got a home game against Grossmont. Brawley is the 6 seed. They'll play against El Camino. And Mission Hills, the 7 seed, gets a home game against Montgomery. Vinny, where do you want to start here?
I think we kind of start, towards the top with the University City Claremont matchup. I think those are 2 teams that perform differently in the regular season, but I think one of the reasons why University City is where they're at, even though they went 12-16 this year, is they won Division 4 in 2024. They won Division 3 in 2025. So, they've made deep playoff runs getting into Division 2. And they also were put in a really tough league this year with, Patrick Henry, Cathedral Catholic, Coronado, Point Loma, which are all Division I, open division teams. So, their strength of schedule is a lot tougher and probably among the toughest in Division 2. And I think that's why you're still, despite a 12-16 record, they're where they're at, still in the playoffs. And then Claremont on the other side is they had a really good season, right? They went 19-9. They played in a pretty tough league this year too, where they went 500, but they had a lot of, good offensive players where, they had 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that hit over 350 for them, right? So, like, they're going to put the ball in play. Not a lot of power with their lineup, but, teams in the playoffs that play small ball tend to, have a chance in any matchup. And then going back to the University City side, we kind of talked about this off air. Like, AJ Curry's a left-handed arm, going to Tennessee, where, you pencil him into a game, it's going to be a really tough matchup for the opposing team, right? And in terms of just tool sets, I think Jaden Curry, we could argue, is probably the most talented, guy position-wise in the Division II bracket. So University City has a shot with those 2 guys at the top and for their experience. But, Claremont's a team who went 19-9, and I think that they're expecting to make a good run too.
Yeah, I saw UC last week against Cathedral down at UC, and Jaden Parker is absolutely one of the most talented guys. I think probably you could say in this division. Him, Parker
Right.
Smith over at Poway,
Right.
Dax over at Mission Hills. There's some talent in this division too, playoff bracket. But I think Parker and Curry are a good 1-2 for UC.
Yeah.
I really like the Tiago kid. I was texting you when he came in to throw. It's an upper 80s arm with a pretty good slider. A little bit of a command issue that particular day, but also plays a really good third base. But it seems like to me that both of these teams are really upper class heavy,
Yeah.
right? A lot of seniors and juniors that play, get
Most of the time. Yeah.
playing time.
Yeah, and I think with UC, like a lot of these guys that are seniors now, like they were juniors last year, sophomores in 24, and they made deep playoff runs. So even though they're an 8 seed having to be a play-in team, I don't think that there's as much pressure as it could be for a potential 8 seed team usually see because they've been there, they've made deep runs before, and I think that's going to bode well for not a prototypical 12 and 16 team that you're seeing make a playoff.
Yeah. Well, let's pivot over to the Poway Grossmont game. I mean, 1-14 a year ago in league to 14-1 this year.
Yeah.
What an incredible turnaround for Poway.
Yeah, no question about it. New coaching staff came in this year, and they from day one seemed like they were trying to just change the culture, change the environment that they had at Poway, and they came out of the gates with a pretty tough schedule. They were going to Temecula a lot earlier in the year, and we know how good that league is over there. And they were playing Chaparral, Temecula Valley, Vista Marietta, so like they had a tough start to the year. Record was about 500 going into league play, maybe a couple of games under, and then they go on a 14-1 stretch into league play. They win league on the last day of season, and they kind of were a balanced approach of offense and defense. They had 23 homers as a team this year, which I don't know the exact number, but I have to imagine that's amongst the top of team home runs this year. And like we just mentioned with Parker Smith, like he headlined that team at the top, right? He hits 412, has 40 hits this year, 17 doubles, 5 homers, drives in 20, batting leadoff for them. Playing outfield full time now, which I think is where his future is at the next level. But they had multiple guys who had 3 or more home runs, right? They had Cruz Gonzalez, who will be at our state games this summer. He hit 415. He had 25 RBIs, 7 doubles this year. Tyler Roy is a junior catcher for them. He had 3 home runs. Victor Encinas is a utility guy for them. He had 3 home runs. And then on the pitching side of things, one of our future games player with Owen Dignan, junior, going to Cal State Fullerton. He headlined them in the rotation with a 6-2 record, and I saw him on the last day of the season, where, like I said, they needed a win to take the league title against Westview, and he goes a complete game with three hits allowed. So I think he's one of the higher end arms in this Division II bracket, and it'll be interesting to see how they pencil him in. Are they going to put him in the play-in round, or do they potentially see him fitting in more Santa Fe Christian, and they think they can advance? But Poway, in my opinion, is a team that could definitely make a run.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the play-in games are Tuesday. The first round is Wednesday. Second round is Friday.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you're looking at potentially 3 games in that first week.
Yeah.
For the winner, obviously.
Yeah.
Actually, you'll definitely get 3 games because
Right.
that second round is the elimination game in
Right.
the double elimination format. So, I mean, 3 games in a week. I don't know how many leagues down there in San Diego do that, but if any, that's going to be a definitely taxing on some of these teams.
Yeah, I think so. Like all hands on deck. Like I think that's going to be probably a theme for these divisions going forward.
Yeah, and then Montgomery against Mission Hills. I know that PJ, who works with us on Montgomery earlier, he told us a little bit about them earlier. Mission Hills, you've seen a few times this year. Again, do you go Hyde right out the gate? Do you save him? Like, it's so compelling, the strategy that coaches have to implement here when you are in that play-in game.
Yeah, like thankfully I'm not the coach to make those decisions, but like I think like something to think about is you need to win to get in, right? But if you do win, then it becomes a double elimination. So it's not the first round doesn't become a must-win game, right? So like you could throw all hands on deck in the play-in, potentially go with a number two in the first round, and then have to go right back on Friday in a must-win game. So like, I think there's different ways that you could go about it. But like you said, like being the higher seed, naturally you could think like maybe we can save our guy and hopefully move on. But if you lose, you're out, right? So um, I think with a Friday game guaranteed, if you win in the play-in, I think definitely he's playing into these decisions on pitching matchups.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Some of the other teams, obviously the top. Let's talk a little bit about the top four teams.
Yeah.
Christian has had just a really really strong season this year.
Yeah, no question. 18-9, 10-2 record in league, and they were, if I believe they were playing for a league title last week of the season against Madison, who was a Division One team that we'll talk about, and they ended up, I think, losing league on the second game of a three-game week with Madison, but they were in it until the very end. They ended up winning their last game of the year against Madison, who I think will make a potential run in Division One. And they have a group of guys that is pretty balanced across the board of seniors and juniors. They had four guys that hit over 330. Had a senior in Benji Molina hit 402 this year, and they have a freshman arm who actually we just saw last week. Our staff down here in Talon Brown, 6'4" right-handed pitcher, reportedly up to 89 miles an hour. So like that's a name that's gonna be circled, I'm assume, for the next couple years. But being a number one team, Division Two, I think is coming from a league that's going to be a lot of Division One teams with Christian. So because they came up a little short with that, I think that they warrant a number one seed in Division Two for sure.
Yeah, then the two seed Bonita Vista, obviously Kenson Johnson, the big name there, but it's more than just a one man show, right? As you've seen in person a few times.
Yeah, so obviously Kenson had a good year at 352, but I saw them in a playoff game last year against Poway, Division One at the time, when they were in a play-in game then, and they had a sophomore at the time, corner infielder, and Adrian Figueroa, who carried their offense until Kenson hit a big homer in that game. But he had two hits, had a big triple in that game, went dead center off the wall for a triple against Poway. And he came up and led the team in average this year, hitting 370, 33 RBIs, 34 hits, homered four times. Him and Kenson, for the most part, carried their offense with 11 homers combined. And, for them having a really good year, 20-8, 6-3 in league, like they're a team that I think is really knocking on the door to make a run with Poway, with Christian. But these play-in games, man, like they're going to be really tough because on the back end, you got to play Bonita Vista and Christian, and it's going to really be tough decision making on the pitching side, like we talked about.
Yeah, no doubt. Helix, the 3 seed. Not sure if you saw them this year. I think you did, right?
I saw them early on, but yeah, I was gonna say Diego saw them a number of times this year. Another guy that works for us.
Yeah. You saw them early on. You said what were your impressions of them?
I wouldn't say it's a one man show, but Romeo Briones, a 2028 left-handed pitcher, first baseman, like he's definitely like if he goes, they seem to go. And he had a really good year this year. I believe he homered 7 times, logged a lot of innings for them on the mound. He's not going to blow you away with the fastball. It's only really 79 to 83, but it's arm side run, fills up the zone with strikes. And, at the next level, I think he's a bat. He came to our preseason All State at Maranatha Christian. He's got definite pull side power. Yeah. And, I think for him, he's a guy that can really, really do damage in the zone. And, if you leave one over the plate, he might make a big swing in the playoffs.
Yeah. Then Santa Fe Christian, the 4 seed. I haven't seen them since Jack Haferkamp was there a couple of years ago. So, what do you got on Santa Fe Christian, if anything?
Yeah, no, I actually saw them this year against Ramona, and what jumps out at you immediately is Troy Gloss's kid playing shortstop, and Ty Gloss. He had a good season, hit 300, lanky shortstop. I think that's a name that's going to be circled for quite a while in San Diego. But their offense was really carried by a senior catcher, Kyle Plasman. When I saw him, he had 3 hits with a double against Ramona. He ended up hitting 430 this year. So, that's an offense. I didn't I'm not sure if their park's a hitting park, a pitching park, but they had a lot of guys that hit well this year offensively for them. And back on Kyle, he ended up 3 homers, had 7 doubles this year. So I think that's an offense that potentially could do some damage.
So their field's pretty weird because it's on the football field. So
Okay,
the right field is really short,
got
and
it. And
then
he's a left-handed hitter.
you bring in the temporary fence
Got it.
around it, so it gets really deep into like
Got it.
left center and the left field, but right field's relatively short, right?
Got it.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot like I did with Hardy,
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask you for your finalists and your champions for each of the divisions we speak of. So you're welcome in advance. So let's go with Division 2 here. Who do you got in the finals, and which, by the way, are still TBD from a location and date and time standpoint for Division 2? Who do you have in the finals, and then who do you have winning it?
All right, I got Bonita Vista, and I think University City can make a run this year.
Ooh,
Again.
Okay.
Just because I really think that any AJ Curry start is just I'm penciling in a win for them, right? Like, obviously, we'll see what happens if the pitching gets taxed a little bit. I know that their offense is a little wonky, but having those two guys, like you said, as a 1-2 punch, I think is going to play a big factor into this.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how the pitching lines up, I'll go University City.
Oh, wow. All right.
I think I don't think I know that you saw them, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that's really a number 8 seed in Division 2, right? Like, them playing in Division 3, winning it last year, them playing in Division 4 and 24 and winning it. Like, I think that's a trend for me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to go Christian against Mission Hills in the finals.
I like that.
I'm going to go a little outside the box, and like you with Curry, I'm gonna pretty much pencil in a Hyde start as a dub, and I'm gonna go Mission Hills to upset Christian.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
🔬🔬🔬 will like that.
Yeah. Shout out to Tice there. Yeah, but I'm gonna go Christian Mission Hills in the final with Mission Hills winning it all there in Division 2.
I like that.
All right. I got Vinny's vote of approval there, and we get a little love to Mission Hills there. So let's pivot over to Division 1, Ben. Top seed, 𝓔𝓸𝓲𝓬𝓮 Canyon, Del Norte, the 2 seed. The aforementioned Madison is the 3 seed, and the 4 seed is Torrey Pines. And again, those 4 teams get a bye to the first round, which will start on Wednesday. The play-in games are Sage Creek, the 8 seed, at home against Carlsbad, the 9 seed. Mount Carmel, the 5 seed, at home against San Pasqual, the 12 seed. Coronado, the 11 seed, is on the road at La Jolla Country Day, the 6 seed. And then San Ysidro, the 10 seed, is on the road against Saints, the 7 seed.
Right.
So let's go through this. Where do you want to start?
I think that we could start, with the play-in games. Mount Carmel, San Pasqual is an interesting one because, like we said, 7-21 team getting in. But Mount Carmel, they won Division 2 last year. They're in now Division 1, but I think they lost some pieces last year to that Division 2 team, which I think definitely hurt them. Bryce Miller was their catcher last year. Really was a main piece of their offense, but you still have Nate Godbold, you still have Kelly Luke at the top of that lineup. 2 very good names down here in San Diego. But I think any one of those teams that move on is going to have to face Torrey Pines, and that's a really tough matchup. Yeah. That's going to be really tough because Torrey Pines got hot at the right time, and I think that matters for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, no doubt. They kind of had a little up and down season, but that last 2-3 week stretch, they were playing really good baseball.
Right. And Jason 𝓒𝓸𝓲𝓬𝓬, who's going to UC Santa Barbara next year, was shut down a little bit during the season. He's actually going to be back for the playoffs, coming out of the bullpen to start. So, think that's just like another boost to Torrey Pines, right? Like getting your ace back, whether he's in the closer role, high leverage role, maybe he gets built up to a starting position, but like you get that left-handed arm back. Like that's just another boost, to your roster too for a team that's playing really well right now. And then going over to Coronado La Jolla Country Day, like I plan to be at that game on Tuesday. La Jolla Country Day had a pretty good season. Mitch Circuit is their shortstop, switch hitter. He ended up homering, I believe, 9 times this year, majority from the left side. He's kind of like the main bat in that offense, but they're going to be going against Villanueva at Coronado. Like, no easy task there. San Diego State arm. So I think that's a flip of a coin of who could win on that given day because of what Villanueva is capable of doing. But that's another one. Do you wait and not throw him in that game because Madison's on the other side? And like that's a team that is really, really underrated. A team that I think that should have been open division. Like when I talked earlier, like 5, 6 teams could be in that open division bracket. Like I would have penciled them in if it was me, making those decisions because they have pitching and they have a really deep lineup.
Yeah, but La Jolla Country Day, right? That's no
No easy
slouch either,
task.
right? So it's
No,
like
right.
you got to win the play-in game, like you
Right.
said when we were talking about Division Two. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if that means you burn your ace and for the week there, um,
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how the game's going to go, right? Maybe he
Right.
goes 3 innings and he leaves with a 5-0 lead,
Right. Right.
right? Then maybe you can bring him back on Friday, but. I mean, you got to win that play-in game. I'm really intrigued by San Ysidro and Saints. I know that Saints was a little inconsistent this
Yeah.
year. Not their kind of traditional year where it's them and Cathedral just kind of rolling.
Yeah.
But they have some talent there, right?
Right.
Pryor, obviously, Miranda, and
Haskett,
then excuse me,
Johnny,
yeah, Johnny Haskett,
Haskett.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right, and they have some talent, and you wonder if it's just kind of a get into the playoffs, and now the talent really rises. But
Yeah.
San Ysidro is one of those scrappy teams, right? They're
Yeah.
going to do everything and anything to win the game. Whether it's small ball, whether it's moving guys over, whether it's sacrificing, whatever it might be, they're going to do it just to try to win the game. What's your take on that game? Because that one's the one that, like, I looked at all these playing games, like that one's the one I think could go either way.
Well, it's funny because I saw San Ysidro last year in the semis against San Pasqual in Division Two bracket, and like you said, that's exactly what they did. They were playing small ball, bunting guys, moving guys over, scratching runs across. Like they're not a team that's going to blow you away with 1 or 2 guys that are going to leave the park. Like it's team baseball. Saw them in the championship game against Mount Carmel. It was a close game really until like the 5th or 6th inning. Like they're a team that is going to find success if they can keep the game close
Yeah,
because late in games, like they're going to probably execute and make the right play. But on the other side, like Saints, if the talent takes over, they should win that game, right? Like
right.
they're gonna have the top end talent. They're gonna have the guys, at the top of the lineup with, Bockenbush and yeah, I'm blanking on another name right now, but like they have the personnel that should win that game. But if it's close come the 6th inning, it's anybody's ball game, and I might even take San Ysidro because of the execution side of things.
Yeah, yeah, that was the one that really again stood out to me when looking at these playing games. 7-10 seeds,
Right.
probably relatively
Yeah.
close in terms of when it came to the rankings, points, and all that. The winner of that plays Del Norte. You mentioned Coronado La Jolla Country Day. Winner will play Madison. We also mentioned that Mount Carmel San Pasqual winner will play Torrey. And then Sage Creek Carlsbad winner plays LCC, the top seed. What like potential second or I guess first round after the playing round?
Yeah.
What potential first round matchups are exciting for you or kind of really pique your interest?
For sure, the Saints San Ysidro winner to play Del Norte.
Uh-huh.
Just because I think if Saints were to move on, like I think they do have some pitching that could carry them, right? Like if you go Haskett game one, you could come back with Pryor in game two.
Yeah.
Or are they going to go all hands on deck where they have an opener and then they have a guy that follows? So they kind of save their pitching, knowing that they have to potentially play on Friday. But that I think is going to be a good one because both Saints and San Ysidro, I think, can keep that game close against Del Norte. On the Madison side of things, I think Madison should take care of that because Jeremiah Jennings is probably going to be throwing. And I saw him go complete game with 17 strikeouts. So like when he's on, I know what he's capable of doing. But I think first round matchup, the Del Norte versus whoever takes that game is going to be a close one. And then on the one seed, like Carlsbad, Sage Creek, two teams that kind of struggled this year, but Carlsbad is a team that's been in playoff baseball before. They have a lot of juniors on their team that didn't play as well as they did as sophomores, but they were exposed to the varsity level last year as sophomores. They were in the playoffs last year. And are they another team where it's like, okay, we get into the playoffs and now does our talent take over? So, they have to go on the road to Sage Creek, but if they advance, I think that could be a good game with LCC, two crosstown rivals.
Yeah, no doubt. That one's interesting. I
Yeah.
think a potential of Mount Carmel against Torrey. Like
Yeah.
that, you mentioned Godbold and a couple other guys in that lineup, like against some of those arms from Torrey that could be good.
Yeah.
Then you get 𝓟𝓵𝓲𝓲𝓬 coming out of the pen there.
Right.
That could be really interesting too.
Yeah. I think that when we talk about pitching decisions, like that might be the most interesting one because he's not going to start. So like they don't feel like they have to throw him in game one, right? Like if they have a lead to work with and some breathing room, you could give him another day till Friday and then he's really fresh, right?
Yeah.
So like that might be the most intriguing pitching decision that any team's going to have to make across all the brackets.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go finalists and champion again, Division One. Location and time are TBD, have not been announced yet as of this morning when I printed these brackets out. So let's roll with Division One finalists and then your champion.
I'll go Torrey Pines and Madison in the final, and I'll have Madison win it all.
Okay, I got the same final, Torrey Pines, Madison, but I got Torrey Pines winning.
Pines. Yeah. That'll be a good game.
Yeah, that would be that. I mean, in a perfect world, I think and it's interesting, right? The 3 and the 4 seed. I mean, we're underselling, LCC as the 1 seed, and we're undervaluing Del Norte, I think, as the 2 seed. But just based on everything we know about Torrey Pines and Madison, and the fact that Torrey Pines kind of is getting hot at the right time,
right?
I think that plays the role, at least in my decision making.
Like in a perfect world, I don't know if it'll happen. You'd have 2 Santa Barbara arms thrown in the final with Jennings and 𝓟𝓵𝓲𝓲, right?
Yeah.
Like that'd be pretty electric Division One championship game right there.
Absolutely. That would bring a lot of eyes to that ball game for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's flip over to the Open Division Championship. This is just straight 1 through 8.
Yeah.
No 12-team bracket. No play-in games here. Games will start on this Wednesday, May 20th, 4 p.m. starts. That's an important note versus the kind of standard 3:15. 1 seed Cathedral Catholic versus the 8 seed Southwest El Centro. 5 seed Patrick Henry goes on the road to the 4 seed Rancho Bernardo. 3 seed Eastlake is at home to the 6 seed Point Loma. And the 7 seed Granite Hills goes on the road to number 2 seed San Marcos. Again, double elimination. So first game is Wednesday. Second game is Friday. Third game is Saturday. So this bracket is going to get cut in. I mean, by next Tuesday are the semis. So, right. I mean, it's quick.
Yes.
It's quick,
totally.
Right? I mean, it's literally potentially 1 week left in these guys' season. So, again, I love the way they do this for the Open Division in San Diego. I think it's awesome. I mean, it's a 10-day playoff, and it's just I mean, bam.
Rapid fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bam, bam. I love it. All right, let's go through these games.
Yeah.
Cathedral, we mentioned the 1 seed. You've seen them. I've seen them
Yeah.
against Southwest 𝓟𝓵𝓲𝓬. You saw them earlier this spring
Yep.
against 𝓒𝓘𝓕-𝓲𝓐𝓮, I believe.
I saw him against San Marcos.
San
Diego
Marcos.
saw him against LCC. So we've
Okay.
seen them twice.
Yeah. These are you and I both vote in the Union Tribune top 10. Southwest 𝓟𝓵𝓲𝓬 has been in my top 10
Yeah.
for I don't know the better part of the season, more than
Yeah.
half.
Yeah.
Cathedral has been essentially the number one team wire to wire.
Totally.
Essentially, right? There may have been 1 week where they weren't number one, but I think it's been wire to wire. Look, go ahead. I'll let you start off
Yeah.
here with this one.
Yeah. Like, I think Southwest EC, like I saw them against San Marcos. Like, that's probably the best team they faced this year. And um, it'll just be interesting to see. Like, they got into open division bracket, but because they haven't faced this kind of competition on a regular basis, like, does the game move a little bit fast for them? That's the only issue that I would have potentially with them struggling, because on paper, like, I think they're a team that can fit right in this and make a run, because they have guys that can just flat out hit. And especially when I saw them, like 𝓭𝓨 a guy that I saw, left-handed hitter, the guy that I sent video to you guys on, just had a ridiculous year. 537, 5 homers, 10 doubles, 44 hits. Um, had a home to first, I believe, in like a 4-2-1. Like, he's athletic, first base outfielder, can pitch a little bit. Like, he carries their offense. And like, I think he's a guy that plays with emotion, plays with a little bit of fire, that's going to possibly really excel on this kind of stage. Like, that's why I'm kind of fired up for them to be in this. But they have other guys that hit over 400. They have three guys over 400 this year, 5 guys that hit over 350. Like, they're going to be a team that's definitely going to hit and be able to put the ball in play. They play with emotion, similar to like kind of San Ysidro, where it's just like really contagious energy, where one guy gets a hit, it's fired up dugout, next guy up, and like that could just string along a lot of momentum in a playoff game, right? But on the other side, they got to go against, like you said, the team that's been number one pretty much all year in Cathedral. Joshua Priest had a ridiculous year at 540, 4 homers, 10 doubles, 25 RBIs, going to Arizona State. Like, that's a guy that's just been on, in the middle of all the action for them all season long. And then on the pitching side of things, they have a lot of different options, which a lot of teams probably don't have the luxury of having. Like, you could throw Partita game one, you could throw Darvish game one, you could throw 𝐂𝐡𝐞 game one.
Yeah.
Like, you have 3 legit number one guys that could be penciled in opening round. And then you have, just a lot of depth in the bullpen. Cody Reynolds was at our West Coast games, left-handed pitcher, up to 87 miles an hour. He's had a pretty good season for them with a 3-1 record. Ty Daniels, who is going to Columbia, right-handed pitchers, 89 to 91 out of the bullpen. So, like, the pitching side of things, if the bats aren't playing for Cathedral, which they might because they have a lot of names, the pitching side of it is going to keep them in a lot of baseball games.
Yeah, the depth on the mound is probably the best in
The
San
best.
Diego County.
Yeah.
And it's pretty incredible. Like,
Yeah.
when I
That's
saw
why
them,
they're a top 10 team in the state right now,
Right.
you know?
Right, exactly, exactly. You mentioned 𝓟𝓵𝓲, right? I don't care what your level of competition is and what league you play in. When you hit 537 or 530, whatever it was you said
Yeah.
he did,
Yeah.
or 531, I mean, you can play, you can hit a baseball, right?
Yes. Yes.
And, on the flip side is Priest, right? 545. I mean, that's
Yeah.
absurd, and that's against some of the best competition in San Diego. So,
Yeah.
I think this one will be interesting, to say the least, because Southwest 𝓟𝓵𝓲𝓬 plays, like you said, with that emotion.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one big play,
Yeah.
one big hit, and that can really spark that, right? And I don't know that Cathedral has played many games against teams that are like that, right?
Right.
That play with
Totally.
that much emotion. So I think it's I think that one's really interesting for a 1-8 game. I mean, that's about as good a
Yeah.
1-8 game we could get.
Yeah, I mean, like, all pressure is on Cathedral, right? Like, no one's
Yeah.
expecting Southwest to come in and take game one of the playoffs against them, right? So, like,
Right.
if Southwest has that mindset going in, I think that they're definitely going to be in the game.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the winner of that will play the winner of RB and Patrick Henry,
Yeah,
two teams that you obviously saw a bunch this spring. RB's been a
up and
little
down.
funky the last few
Yeah,
weeks, right? They've been in a bad spot the last couple of weeks, not playing their best baseball going into the playoffs. And whereas Patrick Henry's kind of reversed their season,
yeah,
right?
totally.
And they're going in like different directions almost.
Yeah, totally. Like you said, like Rancho Bernardo came out of the gates, in my opinion, as the best team in San Diego until Cathedral kind of took notice in the Lions tournament and beat them in the championship, and that's kind of when RB hit kind of the struggle bus. But they came out of the gates playing how I expected them to play, and that was a top 25 team in California. The Bats were going to carry them with 𝓒𝓵𝓲𝓭𝓮 at the front line of the rotation that we've talked about in other podcasts. And then they kind of got into league play, and I don't want to say they played down to their competition because they finished fifth in league, but that wasn't a team that I was expecting to finish so low with a save 7-8 record in league play, right? Like I expected them to be arguably the first or second best team in San Diego this year, and it just didn't happen, right? But if you go through their lineup, you go through their rotation, like they still have, in my opinion, one of the deepest rosters in San Diego, which is why if there's any team that can just turn it on and flip a switch, I think that you could probably say is Rancho Bernardo. But it's no easy matchup because they're facing a team that was in the open division title game last year in Patrick Henry, right? Like I think outside of Cathedral Catholic, they have the next best rotation because they have Tyson Bobo, they have Brady Gunn, and they have James Gunn, which are all three very experienced pitchers
Yeah.
and three guys that are going to pitch a lot of innings for them. And they can kind of pencil it in how they want to, like Cathedral. Do you go Gunn game one? Do you go Bobo game one? If you lose, you have a winner take all, but you have another guy on the back end with whoever you pencil it in for a start, right? So pitching is going to be an interesting theme for Patrick Henry because they have options going forward.
Yeah, and it and I like the lineup too, right? I mean, the
Yeah,
lineup for Patrick Henry is good enough to win games and advance in this bracket. It's going to be interesting to see which Rancho Bernardo team comes out, right?
100%.
Because as you said, we had them in the top 25 in the state. I mean, pretty much
Most of the
all
year
season, like pretty much
until we
all,
couldn't.
yeah, until we couldn't, right? Until they kind of fell apart a little bit there near the end, but and fell apart's probably the wrong term, but until they kind of came against some struggles, um,
Yeah,
there at the end. But so that one's going to be really interesting to see how they respond with the playoff atmosphere, right? Because some
yeah,
teams, like you said, that it's as deep a roster as there is,
yeah,
and can they flip that switch and can they get it going?
yeah.
So.
Well,
Uh,
the reason why I like might bank on them doing that is because they're another team kind of like University City where they've been in playoff games, right? Like 2024, they were in the Open Division Championship. They lost. Last year were Division One championship. They lost, but like they've been making deep runs the last 2 years, and the core of that group is still on the roster. They're all seniors now. So
yeah.
if there's any team that could just flip a switch, I think it's them. And because of the playoff pedigree, they might be able to do it. But it's going to be tough because you're going against a really good Patrick Henry squad.
Yeah, I was at that 24 final against Torrey Pines, and that
Yeah.
one was they were in that game until they
Yeah.
didn't, right,
Right.
and
Right.
it just it got away from them there near the end, but really a tough loss there for them. But
Yeah.
let's go down to the lower part of the bracket. Eastlake, the 3 seed, is home to Point Loma. I know two teams that we've covered this spring. Eastlake has the league player of the year and the league pitcher of the year on their roster. And then Point Loma is one of those teams that's just seemingly always in the mix.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I think this is going to be a pretty close game, probably low scoring. I don't think the offenses are going to be putting up a ton of runs throughout the game, but I would say Eastlake's probably favored just because they went 9-0 in league this year, 21-6. But they have some names that can put the bat on the ball for sure. Like obviously, we know about Vargas, who will be at our pro case in a couple weeks. He had a good season, hitting 353, but that's not even the highest average. They had one, two, three, four, five, six guys that hit over 350, not including Vargas. So like they have some bats that are going to put the ball in play. Hatchet had a really good year. He's going to Santa Barbara. Um, you also got Tello, who I believe was the league pitcher of the year for them. He went 5-0. Uriqui, another right-handed arm sophomore who will be at our pro case. So like they have some pedigree names that I think are gonna perform
Is it
well for them.
Hatet?
Say
Hatet,
that
is
again.
that his last name? Hamzat?
Oh yes, I pronounced it wrong. You're right.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think he was the
League
yeah,
player of the year. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like
Um, but like I was saying, yeah, I think that they have some names and they have some options too. I imagine Tello goes game one, but you can piggyback him right after with Riki in game two. So um, on the other side of things though, with Point Loma, Hunter Redding had a really good year. He's going to Cal State Fullerton. He hit 378 for them. He's really good behind the plate, consistent like 190 to two flat pop times. Arm carries really well behind the plate. And when I saw them this year, he was kind of going in the only guy really hitting for them. But it looks like some guys have picked it up in the last couple weeks of the season because there's some numbers here where guys are hitting over 350. Got a 338 average, 375, 378. Um, and then at the bottom with Landon Palmer, I'm a big fan of him. Sophomore, two-way guy. He'll be at our future games tryout. So
yeah.
it'll be an interesting one, but I think I'll take East Lake in that first round matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think the being at home, and I like the lineup and
Yeah.
the roster a little bit better for
Yeah.
East Lake, and Ramon's done an excellent job
Excellent job.
since he's taken over there for East Lake. All right, the final game, the fourth and final game in the Open Division, game that I'll be at, Granite Hills against San Marcos. Um, San Marcos is the home team. And I think the story in this game, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've seen both these teams much more than I have, is the depth and the quality of talent in the freshman and sophomore classes on both of these teams.
100%. And I think it's easy to just list Wyndham as the headline, as the freshman headline for them for Granite Hills, because he hit 518 this year as a freshman, which is ridiculous. Like 518 as a freshman, I don't care, 518 at any grade, right? But as a freshman, he had 44 hits, 4 homers, 11 doubles, and I'll admit when I'm wrong. Like coming into the season, I didn't think Granite Hills was going to be much just because seeing them last year, it was 6 seniors carrying them.
Yeah.
But then they go on a 21-5 record with a 10-2 league record. You could argue that their 3, 4 best players are freshmen on their team, with also Jaden Macias and Jesse Maddox. 2 other freshmen had good years. Macias had 4 home runs. They have some pitching depth. So like that was a team for me that I wasn't expecting to be what they were. I thought they were maybe a year away, and they've proven that they're right in the middle of things. And then you go over to San Marcos, they just have a good balance of 2028 talent and senior talent. And I think that they've figured out kind of what works for them with a blend of both. They got 3 real sophomore bats that I'm excited for you to see this week, who I think are going to be good for the next couple years. And then they have 3 really good senior arms who are going to, really carry them, I think, through the playoffs with Brody Lane, Snakenberg, and Carter Sy, who are all 3 very legit varsity arms for them. So for me, I think that is probably the first round matchup that is the most intriguing to me, because I think both of these teams you could see potentially in the final.
Yeah, that's and you get it right out of the gate, right? So it's like how are the young guys for Granite going to respond to the pitching from San Marcos? I think is one of the big storylines, right? And are the young guys like, look, I mean, at this point, they're no longer freshmen, right?
Right.
I mean, that it's like, but how are they going to respond to their first taste of the postseason too, right?
Yeah.
And then having to go on the road, and San Marcos it can get loud there. It's kind of a funky setup, and it's so there's just a lot of really intriguing storylines going into this one.
Yeah. It's going to be hostile because they played each other earlier in the season. It was 16-14. It was high scoring. Like it's not like these two teams aren't familiar with each other. Like it's a game that I think is going to draw a pretty good crowd, and it's going to be energetic. And for me, I think that's probably game first round of the week for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be it should be. You just hope, like,
You
going
never know.
into it as a fan, right, or as
Yeah,
an evaluator, you just hope that it's a good game and you get to see
yeah,
what you're wanting to see in terms of
yeah.
players doing their best and performing, right, and
Right.
that's ultimately what you want to see. But um, give me a matchup maybe in the second round that you think could be the matchup of that particular round, and then we'll go to the finals and the champions.
I mean, 𝓔𝓹𝓲𝓪 would be the one for me because those teams play in the same league with each other, and if they were to meet potentially, later on, it'd probably be the semis just because of how the double elimination bracket works. But like if those two teams were to meet, it's just going to be an entertaining one because they faced each other twice this year and they split.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I mean, that's probably a coin toss of who could come out on that side of the bracket. Um, but if Rancho Bernardo shows up and plays how they're capable of playing, then you might not even get that matchup,
Right.
right? But I think for me, naturally, from a fan standpoint, getting two league teams who have been familiar with each other, who are pretty much dead even record wise, that would be a really good one.
Yeah, I think I'd be intrigued by two. I think East Lake San Marcos would be a good matchup, but I would love to see Cathedral and RB, just because, like you said earlier, you know,
Lions tournament.
the
Yeah.
Lions tournament kind of, that loss kind of turned things for RB, and it really
Yeah.
catapulted Cathedral, like
Yeah.
payback, right? I
Right.
mean,
Totally. Totally.
ultimately is what it comes down to. I think they would be a big payback game for RB to kind of get there. I think that would be a fun one in the second round. All right, let's go to the finals. Who do you got in the finals, and who do you have winning the Open Division?
Um, just because they've been the best team all year and they have probably the best pitching depth, I'll go Cathedral in the final. And I think that they will play San Marcos.
Okay. Okay.
And just because they did play each other early in the year and it was a really good game, I was there for it. Cathedral's pitching, I think, is just top to bottom really good. And I think that it's just kind of that much better than everybody else at the moment. Obviously, in the playoffs, anything can happen, but
Right.
just from a prediction standpoint, I'll go Cathedral as the winner.
Okay. I'm going to go RB and San
I
Marcos.
like it. I like that.
I think Coach Bombach has done a really good job with that program, and I think having been in the finals the last 2 years,
Yeah.
That means something, right?
Yeah.
And those players are capable of getting back there. We'll just say
Totally.
that. And I'll go San Marcos on the bottom end.
Which is a rematch. They just played each other last week for league, which
Yeah,
is another league matchup, which is awesome.
yeah, and I'm going to go San Marcos to win it all over RB. I just think what you've shared with me, from a video standpoint, from just an information standpoint, I think San Marcos seems like a one of those teams of destiny. I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
cliche, right? But
Yeah.
um, like, they're playing really well. They've been pretty consistent all year. I think their sophomore group is playing like upperclassmen now, and I really like Brody Lane. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if it sets up for him in the finals, no matter who they're playing, they're going to have a chance to win that game.
Yeah. Like I said, they got three arms in their senior class. They got a Santa Clara commit. They have Brody Lane, which is Fullerton. They have Carter Sy, which is a Point Loma commit. Like they have three guys that are going to throw a lot of strikes for them. And then, Nathan Reaney, who was a transfer guy from J. Sarah for them, sophomore arm, like he's come in and been a really good force for them in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot because it'll be interesting to see how their lineup does away from San Marcos because I've seen most of their games at home over the last 2 years, and I don't know if there's a lot of splits there, but like it's definitely a hitter's park. But
Yeah.
for their pitching staff to be able to perform how they do at that field, I think bodes well for them because it's not an easy place to pitch at.
Right, right. Yeah, it can play small.
Very,
Yeah,
very.
it can play very small. All right, Vin, any final thoughts regarding the San Diego section playoffs from you?
I'm just I'm expecting all my predictions to be wrong. That's like I won't be surprised that if none of them end up panning out because of how baseball is weird sometimes.
Right, right. Well, I mean, if we've learned anything from Hardy, it's that we can expect chaos, right? And more
100%.
importantly, embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Vin, you and your group of guys down in San Diego have done an excellent job just covering all season. So it's fun that now we get to where it kind of the intensity ratchets up a little bit here in the postseason. So it should be fun to follow it. Make sure that you are checking out prepbaseballreport.com, where we'll be updating a lot of information from the postseason and upcoming with our state player of the year and our first team all state and all that stuff coming out. So for Vinny, I'm Les. We appreciate you guys watching and listening. And until next time, we'll see you at the yard.